Happy to be here, and I think I have a short question. Who would like to join, to travel? Who like to travel? I think if you're not like to travel, then you're completely wrong in the business. That please have in your mind, because I have to talk about transformation concerning SDOs and open source. That is only also a journey, nothing else. Because we have in mind where we're coming from. We had in the past, we had discussed SDOs and standardization and this kind of stuff. Standards did a great business, a great success for our business here. Otherwise, we would be not able to make a call around the world. But the world is changing. Now we have new kids on the block. So we have open source solutions also to consider if you're talking about deployments of future technologies. But as we started this journey, then we had more or less a competition between the SDOs and open source projects. Call it ONAP, call it OSM, call it some other open source project. But as normal in a journey, situations are changing. The parties have to recognize that we have different capabilities, we have different use, and nobody is able to address all the points by their own. That is a key issue if you compare as we started this journey. And that is the reason why I say you like to have to travel. There's ups and downs, it's a journey. You have to make a break to say where we are and what is the next step to come together on the same target. Because I am deeply believer on collaboration, on cooperation. That is the reason why I'm sharing the ETSI ISG, ZSM, and why we are pushing that so hard in DT, that we have to drive cooperation between the different camps, between the open source camp and the SDOs. DT organized a conference in September, 7th, 8th and 9th, concerning, the title was Open Source Meets Standardization, and it was a good discussion how we can make the next leg on our journey here. Well, that's what we addressed in the conference. We see it here, so the end-to-end automation from operator point of view is key, that we are driving automation. And you heard a couple of presentations or talks today, that without any automation we are definitely not able to manage our networks. And yesterday in our ETSI talk, I mentioned already that we have to reduce the complexity in our network. And there's one topic, and for sure, in order to doing that, we need automation to be able to manage the networks, because it is much more complex than in the future than we have it today. I made a competition, compare that with, as we introduce SDN in IP in mobile networks. I'm a mobile guy. I'm working in mobile for ages now. And my colleagues, I was in charge of operation, I said that yesterday also, but it's a good example if you have to manage expectations. They said, okay, Klaus, your operations world will be much, much easier than today, because now we have IP in our technology. By the end of the day, it was much more complex than before, because they forget that we have to work our legacy technology as well, and that makes it so complex. That's something what we have to consider if you're talking about in the future about standardization and open source. I think what is really key to address is that we have also to talk about a little bit more the change of our telco ecosystem. Technology is one point, but the telco ecosystem is another point we have to consider if you talk about the future. And this has to be discussed with both, with SDOs, and to be discussed with open source as well. Because you have to also in mind that the classical telco companies like Deutsche Telekom or Telefonica or some others, we are hardware driven, and that is, the ecosystems are really hardware driven ecosystems, not considering that we're talking now about software. And that is something that should be addressed in the future as well. If you talk about transformation, if you talk about collaboration between open source and standardization, we have to talk about how we can transform our current ecosystem in a more classical in brackets, software-driven world. The IT knows that. Telco is a complete new experience about software management in a complex network. That means, in principle, we have two topics to address. one topic is transformation from the classical ecosystem to a new one. And they have to talk about how we can use standards combined with open source. That is something what we have to consider. In my ideal world, I think the standardization people are enabled to deliver the standards for maybe interfaces, maybe not in the domain, but for the interfaces. And open source could be a possibility to implement that in a more proper way than you can do it by a standard. That's a little bit more independent from the standards if you're delivering and deployment in a domain. Okay, on this conference we had 8 topics to discuss. It was about, I see it later, so also 200 participants were there, and a lot of different colleagues. But the main problem was here, the main discussion point was about the ecosystem and the business impact on that one, and what we can learn from other industries. We invited Zalando, nothing to do with Telekom. We invited Amazon, they are partially involved and have knowledge about telco, but in principle the idea was to see how the other industry do business concerning automation, to learn from that. Because in the telco industry, to be honest, I have to say, sometimes we're looking like this, and not a bit wider, looking what is on the market available, maybe in other industry, how is it driving that one. And that was a good one, because it was a very fruitful discussion which we had on this conference, and we learned a lot from them how we can do it differently. And finally, I come to the point: the way forward is also discussion what we had, and we agreed on some topics which we are like to address in the next couple of months. Because to run a conference is nice, but to make a second conference with the same setup maybe is not the best thing to do if nothing happens in the meantime. And that is something what we discussed as well. Okay, we have different keynotes from different senior management of DT. We talked about the current situation. We talked about IETF. We talked about CDP and all this kind of if you have, and we did a great job in the past. Also about NFV. I'm also involved in NFV since end of 2012, beginning of 2013. That means I'm on the way to do the journey with NFV for a while now. Then we talked also about how we can, a little bit difficult to these slides. How we manage and how we can monetize our technologies, because to build it is nice, to set it up also, but by the end of the day we have to make business from the investments which we have here, because otherwise we have immediately a discussion with our CIO, CFOs. They are asking all the time, if you build up a new technology like 5G, why the hell, why you need all the money, but I have not my money back which I gave you for implement 4G. But that is business. But we discussed it also from the DT point of view. And finally, we talked a bit about the cloud control points, how we see that from DT. We had a deeper discussion about that one also on the conference. Because they can have different views, and by the end of the day, you can see for a solution for that. Well, that was a very fruitful discussion. Then, what is about NFV? What is the success of that one? As I said, I'm involved in NFV for a while. You can have different views about how we can use Mono. For sure, different companies have different views, different companies have different views and different solutions. And but by the end of the day, we at NFV triggered a good discussion in our industry, how we can virtualize our technology. I think that's a good point. How we implement it maybe is another topic to do. But finally, I think we had also some good input for the own-up discussion, for OSM discussion as well. That means standardization has an opportunity to trigger some discussion outside of the standards. But finally, we have to talk about how we can use both standards and open source. It's a journey, as I've already said. Okay, well, I mentioned the introduction of IP, and I mentioned also the situation we have in the OSS layer. I try to avoid if I talk to my management, the word OSS, because immediately it triggers the discussion about money, it triggers about complexity, it triggers discussion of proprietary interfaces, all this kind of stuff. That is the reason why we are looking for standards and we're looking for a common approach concerning open source implementation. But now I see some on horizon, cloud native. The problem with cloud native is we have too many different tools available. Maybe we fall in the same trap that we have fallen with OSS implementation, that we have too many of them to manage. I think we have to find out what is the best way to manage that one. I saw a chart about young implementation. Well, young is young, but if you're looking more in details, you have thousands of different young implementation and understanding what it means. From operator point of view, it's really complex to manage that. We have to find a way how we can simplify that, and that is the same thing, the same task we have to do here with cloud native, which we are facing. I think these are the same challenge to manage if we go in this way. There is no doubt that we have to go in that way, but how we manage that one, that is discussion we have to do in our industry. Means discussion, I always say that discussion between open source and standardization. Is it ONAP, is it OSM? I don't know. I definitely say it is ETSI because I'm representing ETSI. But I think it should be to have a fruitful discussion about that one. Well, then we had also a mirror from Alice Mason. Caroline Chapelle gave us a picture about that one, how we're doing that. I will not go here into detail. Finally, she said, well, we need this kind of discussion. We need a common approach. I'm happy to say that you mentioned ZSM in a positive way, for sure. I'm happy about that one, definitely. But the key message was there is a need for a change in the industry. There's a need for a collaborative approach between all involved parties, and we have to do it now. We can't wait because the world is changing from an operator point of view. The OTTs are challenging us for sure, and we are aware of that one, and we have definitely to take in consideration that we are not only in a competition between the classical telco companies, we are also in competition with the OTT. We have to find a better way how we do our business. Well, that was something about the ecosystem. I'm a little bit more about the time because I have on the panel in 10 minutes. And that is the clear message also from Alice Mason, that we have to change our ecosystem. There is a need for that one. And that one of the outcomes of conference was that we will talk about the ecosystem more in detail in the next couple of months, because there is a need to change that. There's only a question who should be involved in the discussion, but that is normal business. Well, then, as I said, we invited different companies to learn from them. That was Adidas and Zalando. And the good thing was, that was for me the first point in time. Normally, doing meeting minutes by hand or by writing. But no, we had a painter, and he did the meeting minutes. I was really impressed as he did the meeting minutes. That was 1 meter, 4 meter long site, and he did some drawings. It was really impressive. But the main topic was, the main understanding was by the end of the discussion that we have to continue the discussion, we have to continue the work, and not only the discussion, we have to do some concrete stuff. Well, in ZSM, we are 66 members for the time being. It's a good setup. For sure, I can always more, but I think that is good. To start with, a lot of different companies from different parts of the industry, also from the open source industry, we are discussing our topics. Then our work program, which we have in scope, we have a couple of standardizations are already published. Now we are going for the second phase of ZSM. We will start in January. Now we're talking about what are the objectives for the second phase. For sure, end-to-end and cross-domain management are one of the topics. We like to prove our ideas on the slicing work item. Slicing is a very popular name in our industry. Everybody try to align it with slicing, because it's really, from my point of view, a hot topic in 2020 to be discussed and to find a solution for that one. I think that is a good work item, a good test case to check whether we are on track or not.
Okay, then what was a benefit was, for sure, we tried to align us with ONAP. I have to say we presented our results on the ONS in Antwerp last month. We made an alignment, a proposal based on 4 companies, including DT, how we can see the alignment between the ZSM architecture on the right side and the ONAP architecture. And that is now under discussion how we can do that. It was a positive feedback from the ONAP folks that we say, okay, yes, there is a good proposal how we can align the architecture. This is a clear indication that we are on track with on our journey between to collaborate with the ONAP folks and standardization people. Okay. Yeah, the status. Automation is, you see on the OTT models on the left side, you see also some heroes on the horizon. That's Rakuten. For them, I think it's much easier to set up a new technology because they're greenfield operators and we are brownfield operator, but I will not complain. We have to tackle that as well. But also we see it's the defragmentation of the telco STO is also a topic we have to discuss. And the open source communities, and again the ecosystem is also important to discuss and to redesign that also. Activities which we agree, the mapping between ZSM architecture and ONAP, that is on track. The first discussion was done. Then interworking between ETSI and Linux Foundation, I think that is also on track. ETSI and Linux Foundation announced MOU beginning of the year, and no further discussion are ongoing. We're talking about how we can use the TMF open APIs. And again, this new ecosystem is finally also a topic which we have in the scope in the next months. Okay, the way forward, you see it here. I presented that, was in ONS in Antwerp. We discussed it deeply. We are in discussion with some companies how we can moving forward. In concrete terms, not only talking, doing is now requested. Finally, the DT will host a second conference next year about the topic in order to check where we are. If we are not able to moving forward, do better in the next 11 months, because the conference is will be organized in September the 7th and the 8th in 2020. If you're not able to do something different, I think then we're really in a trouble with our industry, because it should be much sooner than 11 months. Otherwise, I think then we really have a trouble with our industry concerning ecosystem, concerning solutions, this kind of stuff. That is my overview about here. Now I have 2 minutes to go to the bed.